guys, that we talked previously about, like beginning of the human life cycle, which is no other than fertilization. As I told you earlier, like the human life cycle begins with something called fertilization, which was done by fusion of two reproductive cells called gametes. One is called as sperm, another one is called as egg or ovum, which is produced by sperm is produced by the father, egg is produced by the mother. Now you also know that like both sperm and egg are haploid in nature. Haploid because why? It has only one set of chromosome. One set of chromosome. So now the question arises is like what happened during the fertilization phase? So what basically happens is the nucleus of the sperm. For example, this is a sperm nucleus. Nucleus of the sperm. Wait, sperm nucleus plus this is egg. Okay, this egg nucleus. In the females, we can say ovum nucleus. They fuses together to form a single cell known as zygote. N plus N, haploid and haploid combines, it forms 2N, which is diploid. How it is diploid? Like in N, there are 23 chromosomes. In sperm or in the egg also. In both sperm and egg. Okay. Now you know that 23 received from the father, 23 received from the mother, father, mother, and the baby which is formed will get 2046 chromosome, which means that like the chromosome carry genes both the maternal and paternity family lines. The baby, or we can say these chromosomes will carry the genes from the maternal side of the family and the paternal side of the family. So now after that, like what happened is this thing called growth and development. Here comes thing called mitosis, like we studied earlier in the previous chapter. Why mitosis is necessary? It produces like, all the body cells. What are body cells earlier called as somatic? They are called as somatic cells. Okay, they like it is. It also ensures the exact duplication exact and equal distribution of chromosomes. Equal distribution of chromosome. And also what it maintains the diploid condition. Diploid 2 is equal to 46 chromosomes in all the body cells. This thing results in like formation of skin cells, muscle, nerve cell, blood cells. They all contain what? Two sets of chromosome. Okay. Meanwhile, also like the genetic information will also remain unchanged, and it is stable also. Your genetic information. You now like I'm moving to a different topic. Which is known as you heard about some this thing, germ cells. Okay, germ cell doesn't indicate like they are germs or they are microbes that you have to kill them. No, it is different in this biology. Germ cells means like they are not formed by the mitosis. Okay, like not all the cells formed by mitosis Why? But there are some exceptions, though they don't carry the thing called mitosis, which is known as, I can say example is gametes. Why gametes? They are formed, like they are formed from special cells known as, they're formed from special cells called as germ cells. Why? Because these germ cells are found in gonads, which is testis in males and ovaries in female body. Gonads are sexual reproductive organs. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So in this case, we finally conclude that like gametes are not produced by the mitosis. Mitosis. Now the question arises like why meiosis doesn't happen in the formation of the gamete? Why? Okay, now let's answer this. Mitosis, oh sorry. Like if the gametes were formed by the mitosis, what would happen? Think about it. What would happen is, first of all, they all would be deployed because like 2n would carry out and it grows to deployed. Again, it form a deployed organism. Like it would be disastrous, like 46 plus 46, 6, 6, 12, 92 chromosome. You know, it would double the chromosome number, 2n to 4n, we can say, which is like practically like not possible. It would be like genetically disastrous. So like to prevent this, okay, I'm just writing it down. I've written all of this. They all be deployed. Fertilization would produce zygote with 92 chromosome. That's too much. Each of the generation would double the chromosome number. From 92, like it's double in 92, like 92 and 92, 184. Okay, 92, 92 into 2, 184. Then after like adding 182 plus 82, then adding another. This will carry out another. Like they will divide rapidly. To prevent this, meiosis is necessary. Each generation would double the chromosome number. It is like it would be genetically disastrous. So like to prevent that meiosis, what like meiosis do is, meiosis reduces the chromosome number by half. First of all, second, converts the diploid into haploids. That's it. Haploid gametes. Yeah, diploid cells to haploid gametes reduce the chromosome number in half, and mitosis double it. So like it is it is type of conservation, you can say. They are like balancing the ecosystem and all the world, so that's why it's necessary. Now let's talk about alternation of meiosis and fertilization. Now like the human life cycle involves a regular alternation of two key processes. First is meiosis, told you earlier. Second one was fertilization. So now let's recap. What does meiosis do? It reduces the chromosome number by half. Okay, it occurs during the gamete formation. Okay, and what does fertilization do? It restores the chromosome number. Restores chromosome number. Secondly, what does do? It occurs where like during the fusion of gametes. Okay, now what do these do? Both do like this alternation. What does these do? Like this helps to maintain a constant chromosome number. Constant chromosome number. And secondly, it ensures genetically continuity across the generation. Now from this point, like we'll start comparing the life cycles, like in and the variation in timing of meiosis and fertilization in different organisms, like which reproduce sexually. For example, let's talk about the diplontic one. Now listen, like from here that like the topic, important topic starts. So listen very carefully. This is cycle like it's occurred mostly in humans and most animals. Okay, what does this happen? Like see, only organisms we can say where gametes are haploid in nature, which means N. Okay, and the multicellular organism is diploid. Okay, so what usually happens, that like in the meiosis, it occurs in the germ cells and that produce the haploid gametes. Okay, in most humans, there are special organs which are known as testes and the ovary, we can say, which produces the germ cells. For the male, they produce what? Sperm, and for female, they produce what? I told you, ovum or egg. Okay, these both things are haploid in nature. Okay, single cell, and now like they do not divide further before the fertilization. They don't divide before fertilization happens. Okay, during the fertilization, a haploid sperm. Okay, for example, let's say this sperm. Okay, this is an egg, a sperm and a haploid egg. Okay, these fuse together to form what? Zygote, which is then diploid and 2n. Okay, then what happens is, to this zygote, it undergoes the mitosis 2n to form a multicellular organism. Okay, which means an adult, we can say. Now to know the specific points, like we know that haploid phase is very short. Haploid phase is very short. Secondly, the adult organism is diploid in nature. Okay, and this life cycle known as the gametic meiosis type. Now I'm like making a diagram for like better understanding. For example, these two are gametes, which is sperm. First one is sperm. This one sperm, egg. Just for simple understanding, hope you could get it. These are haploid in nature. Now what has happened is these two mix together to form diploid organism, which means zygote. After that, here mitosis happens. Okay, here fertilization happens. Okay, in this process, and here mitosis happens. Now what happens is this have to form an individual which is zygotic in diploid in nature and adult organism. Now what happened is from his testes or from the like in the females the ovaries, it produces the gonads again, which is done by meiosis, and the haploid form again. You know, either it is male or either it is female. Then they start the life cycle again and again. So that this cycle works again and again. It is basically found in animals. Okay. Now let's move on to another different type of life cycle, which is known as haplodiplontic life cycle. Haplodiplontic life cycle. Okay, this type of life cycle usually occurs in the plants and some sort of algae. Okay, now the key feature here is to note that both the haploid stages and diploid stages, which means N stage and 2N stage, are multicellular. In the previous life cycle, we discussed that they are unicellular, which means the haploid stage was unicellular and the diploid stage was multicellular. But in this case, the both stages are multicellular, which means there are two generations which are alternate. Two generations alternate. Okay. Now, now imagine there is a plant. Okay. Okay. It is a diploid multicellular organism. Okay. In the scientific terms, it is called as sporophyte. Okay, it is diploid in nature, which means 2N. Now this plant undergoes a specific thing called meiosis and produce the gametes, like the gametes called in their language was is spores. These spores are haploid in nature, but they are not unicellular, they are multicellular. Okay, and secondly, these spores do not fuse with another cell. Like in the previous life cycle, we seen that, like, like the male and female fuse together to form a zygote, but here it doesn't happen. Now what happened, like each single spore, well, let's take this one. This spore divides further by mitosis and form a multicellular haploid stage, which is known as gametophyte. Gametophyte. Okay. Now what happened is, okay, this gametophyte produces haploid gametes by again mitosis. Okay, then here, listen closely. Then fusion of gametes happen and it forms a diploid zygote, which is done here as fertilization. After that, the zygote develops again into the sporophyte. Why? Mitosis again. You know how complex it is. First, there is an organism or the plant. It is sporotype. It produces a spore which are haploid in nature that do not fuse with another one. Then each spore undergoes a condition called as mitosis. Okay, at there it divides into gametophyte. Then this gametophyte generation produces what? The haploid gametes. Okay, which is done by the mitosis, and you know then this fusion happens, which is known as fertilization. This resulting into formation of a new thing called diploid zygote. And then zygote develops into the next sporophyte generation. Now, like the question arises, like why it is called the alternation of generation? Because the sporophyte produces what? Gametophyte. Okay, again vice versa. Gametophyte produces sporophyte, and diploid and haploid generation alternate regularly. So that, so like that's why. And the next thing we'll talk about is haplontic life cycle. Haplontic life cycle, which is like based in fungi and some protista. We can say it's found is mostly fungi or protists, or we can say some type of algae. The main feature only we'll talk about is the only diploid stage is zygote here, only diploid stage, and the adult organism is haploid here. See, adult organism is haploid in nature. Now how? Now I'm telling you. Now what happened here is, see, suppose there are two haploid gametes, N and N. Okay, they undergo fertilization to form what? To form zygote here, which is diploid in nature. And like in previous cycles you learn that like it undergoes mitosis to form an organism, but here at this stage it undergoes meiosis. Why? It undergoes meiosis and forms two gametes, which are, we can say, two haploid cells. Two haploid cells. These are gametes, haploids. Then it produces two haploid cells. Then these haploid cells undergo thing called mitosis again to form a unicellular haploid cell. See, it is unicellular. We can say it is called multicellular also, but it is still haploid. Then this haploid organism later produces gametes by what? Mitosis again. Like so. In this case, like you've seen that like diploid phase is very short. Extremely short-lived. Only a zygote is like diploid here. That's why like, this is different. What happened was earlier like the gametes, haploid gametes, they undergo fertilization, then they form a dizygote, then zygote undergoes the meiosis, they form the two haploid cells. Then what happened is these one of these cells go undergo mitosis, forms a unicellular or multicellular adult, which is not diploid. You can see, to note that it is not diploid here. And then this cell, or we can say this adult goes mitosis again to form the gametes, and the cycle continues. Like one key thing you noted there, like, mitosis only occurs in what? Haploid cells, and both diploid also. But like in the case of meiosis, it only occurs in diploid, from making 2n. Okay, like haploid cells only one chromosome set left, so it cannot be reduced further. Yeah, we got it. Now let's talk about the common outcomes of the three life cycle we discussed earlier. you know First one is all cell cycles, sexual life cycle, we can say, involve what? Meiosis and fertilization, which is common in everything. Secondly, all of them produces genetic variation among offspring, which means the babies or the next generation. Now it is done using sources of variation, which are, I'll talk it about in the next video, which is crossing over. in meiosis, independent assortment of chromosome, and the random fertilization. So, like, let's make a quick summary for you before going. Life cycle. What we discussed earlier in diplontic, haplodiplontic, and haplontic, multicellular diploid. Let's make a column here. Multicellular haploid, and some of the examples. Okay. Now, in the diplontic life cycle, the multicellular diploid forms or not? Yes, it forms. The multicellular haploid forms? No. What are the case? In humans and in the most animals. Secondly, in haplodiplontic life cycle, the multicellular diploid forms or not? Yes, it forms. In which type of organism? We can say sporophyte. In the multicellular haploid forms or not? Yes, it forms. In what type of case? Gametophyte. What are the example? Plants. Okay. Now in the haplontic life cycle, does the multicellular diploid form or not? No. Only zygote is there, but it is still not multicellular. Does the multicellular haploid forms or not? Yes, it forms, which is the case in fungi. Hope you like the video. That's it. That's it for today. Go enjoy.